I've been taking photos for over a decade, and in that time, I've acquired lots of gear, knowledge, and experience. But what if I had to do it all over again, starting fresh?
Where do they all go? Start fresh? What do you mean I have to start fresh? Who said that? Why do I need to start fresh?
Today, I'm gonna walk you through the 5 most important things that I would do differently if I was just getting started, so you can kick off your photography journey the right way and avoid the mistakes that I made. But before we begin, be sure to subscribe to see more great photography content. Now, this list isn't in any particular order, as everything here is important, so let's just get started with number 1, and that is to keep the gear simple. Start with one lens and master it. So when you're first starting out, it can be tempting to binge gear reviews and think that you need the latest and greatest camera in order to take good photos. Well, I'm here to tell you that you really don't. Good photographers can take good photos with literally anything, so don't go into debt buying a shiny new mirrorless camera just because some filthy YouTuber told you that it's going to change your life in 10 million different ways. I've recently posted a few DSLR videos, and I'm obviously quite fond of them, especially cameras like this, the Nikon D700 or the Canon 5D Mark III. Now, both these cameras are cheap. They're high quality, the controls are easy to learn, and they have just enough limitations to make you a better photographer overall. The image quality that comes out of these cameras is also absolutely breathtaking. And on that DSLR recommendation, I don't want you guys to think that I'm some sort of mirrorless hater. Obviously, if you can afford to get a very expensive mirrorless camera, go for it. The experience will be great. You'll have amazing autofocus, eye detect, all that kind of good stuff. But I do think that learning to sort of overcome the limitations that DSLR gives you will in turn actually just make you a better photographer in the long run. And if we look at it from a purely value perspective, there is absolutely no better value than these old full-frame professional DSLRs. Cameras like the 5D Mark III, the Nikon D700, D750, all that kind of stuff, you can pick those up for a few $100s all day, every day, and they are going to be exponentially better than any mirrorless camera that you can buy for that price point. And I've had some comments in the past of people being like, oh, well, you know, they're cheap until some YouTuber talks about them. Which is true if it's a more niche lens or a niche camera or something that no one's ever heard of, but every single professional and their dog use the 5D Mark III. There are so many of these cameras around. You don't need to worry about them all of a sudden becoming rare and scarce and hard to get. The supply for them way outdoes the demand for them, in my opinion. And my video or a few other people's videos won't make a difference in that. So if I was just getting started, I would buy a solid pro-level full-frame DSLR, and then I would pick either a 35mm, a 50mm, or maybe even a 28mm prime lens, and I would master it. A zoom lens might seem a little bit more versatile, but when you're new, I think honestly a prime is usually the better choice, as the fewer variables you have to think about, the faster you'll improve. When I first got started with photography, I had a Canon 5D Mark I with a 40mm f2.8 little pancake lens. And not having to worry about zooming or, thinking about what focal length I should be using, because I only had one, I think overall made a huge improvement to the way that I was learning photography. The other thing as well is if you're shooting on these DSLRs, the full frame zooms are gonna be very big and heavy, so don't make these cameras any more heavier than they already are. Use a small lightweight prime. And once you've mastered that focal length, then you can buy more lenses. Don't rush to build an arsenal of glass before you even know how or why you'd use each focal length. Next up for number 2 is learn how to edit your images. Now, you might be thinking, but my camera already gives me great JPEGs, especially if you shoot with Fuji. But if you really want full creative control and to make your photos truly yours, you need to learn how to edit RAW files in Lightroom or something similar. Understand tones, color, and contrast, and editing helps your work stand out and plays a huge role in developing your personal style. So I've got a few Lightroom tutorials on my channel, including one where I walk through my full workflow. And I also cover an amazing culling tool called Narrative that I've been using recently that really helps to speed up your post-shoot workflow. Presets can also be a great starting point, but they are not a one-click solution, regardless of what anyone tells you. Speaking of presets, however, I've actually got 2 preset packs available that I've linked below to help you get your photos looking closer to mine. And I've also recently introduced a bundle deal to get both packs at a discounted price. Every purchase helps to support me and this channel. Now for number 3, and that is practice. A lot. So if you don't take photos, you won't improve. It's that simple. Don't just wait for paid gigs to justify picking up your camera. Shoot for you. And also, to add to the practice side of things, you should really be shooting in full manual mode. So that's M on the top dial. That way you'll learn what each setting, so that's aperture, shutter speed, and ISO, actually does to your image. Now, this is known as the exposure triangle, and the exposure triangle is all about balancing these 3 settings to control how bright or dark your photo is. But each one also affects the look of your image in a different way. Now, aperture affects your depth of field, so that's how blurry or sharp the background looks. So wide open, like f1.8 would be great for portraits if you want to blur the background out, or narrow it down to f5.6 or f8 for landscapes, or if you're doing like a group photo and you want to get everyone in focus. Your shutter speed controls motion, so use fast shutter speeds to freeze action, or slower ones to create motion blur or to let in more light. Finally, ISO affects the brightness of your image. But too much of it can add noise or grain to your image, and I would avoid going above 3200 ISO unless you have a modern mirrorless camera, as otherwise your image will be very grainy. In general, a good rule of thumb is that I always try to shoot at 100 ISO if I can, because that's when your camera's dynamic range and sensor will deliver the absolute best results. So always try and adjust your aperture and your shutter speed first before adjusting your ISO. Remember, always ask yourself, do I need more light, less motion blur, more background blur, and then tweak those settings accordingly. Set weekly challenges. For example, one week you could focus on portraits, the next you could experiment with lighting, you could try landscapes. You never know what kind of photography you'll fall in love with until you try everything. And remember, you don't need to be amazing to start, you just need to start. Next up for number 4 is post your photos. Consistently, but with purpose. So don't just post for likes. Post the kind of work that will attract the audience or clients that you actually want. Now, I've got a video all about personal branding for photographers, which dives deep into building a portfolio that works for you, and I'll have it linked below in the description just below the like button. Definitely be sure to check it out. And when you share your work, don't shy away from feedback. Criticism helps you grow, but also don't compare yourself to photographers with a decade of experience, as good work takes time. Just keep shooting, keep learning, keep posting, and you will get better. Now, finally, for number 5 is learn the business side early. Even if you don't plan on making photography your career, you still need to know your worth. Otherwise, you risk being taken advantage of. So a perfect example of this is early on in my career, I took a photo for a local streetwear group that the founders of the group really liked, and they wanted to put onto a t-shirt. So I was an active member of this community, and I thought it was, the right thing to do was just to let them use the photo. And I was like, look, I don't even need royalties, just give me a free t-shirt. So lo and behold, the founders sold heaps of these t-shirts, made thousands of dollars in profit, and I received nothing except for the t-shirt, which I wore maybe once. Your talent won't protect you from bad clients. Learn the basics: licensing, usage rights, fair pricing, all of that. Even if photography is just a hobby, that knowledge will protect your work and your time. And when it comes to charging, don't wait too long. Now, I didn't charge for my work up until about 2 years in, but honestly, you can start sooner, as even a small fee sends a message that your time and your skill have value. Now, if you're sitting here wondering if you're ready to charge, well, look around. If photographers with work similar to yours are making money, then so can you. Doing all of these things will help put you on the path to a successful photography career. And even if you don't plan to make this a career, it'll at least help you take the best photos possible. So I hope this video was helpful to you guys, and now I want to know, if you had to start from scratch in 2025, what would you do? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys next week, and have a great day.